Amendment by Dukes.
Chair recognizes Representative Dukes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This amendment would allow a parent under the Baby Moses Project or the Safe Havens Act to remain anonymous and to be shielded from prosecution for abandonment or neglect in exchange for the safe and unharmed delivery of a child who is no more than 1 year old to a safe haven such as an emergency medical service provider, a hospital, a licensed child placing agency, police station, or fire station if the Department of Family and Protective Services denies that individual the ability to have an abortion and they must carry the child. Presently, state law under the Baby Moses Act, which was a very wonderful statute created by our very own Miss Jeannie Morrison, allows for a child up to 60 days old to be left at a facility which would include an EMS provider or a hospital or a child placing agency. This amendment states that if the agency does not allow a woman to give her a waiver to receive an abortion past the 20-week time period, then the agency must allow for non-prosecution if the parent voluntarily delivers the child to a police station or a fire station, including those that are already within the statute, and the child could be up to 1 year old. The reason this provision is important is because in 2011, when the state, the leadership, those who were in control, chose to eliminate the Women's Health Program, it eliminated birth control. Mr. Speaker, could I please, I can't even hear myself think.
Members, can we please have some order in the chamber so the members can hear each other debate? Please take your conferences, your discussions outside the rail. Chair recognizes Ms. Dukes.
The reason this amendment is so important is because in 2011, the governor in the state of Texas decided to eliminate funding for the Women's Health Program. The Women's Health Program provided services for those women between the ages of 18 and 44 who were not pregnant, but for the fact they were not pregnant would have qualified for Medicaid and for Medicare. It provided them with birth control as one aspect, but it also provided breast cancer screening, cervical cancer screening, diabetes checks, hypertension, you name it. But in the ominous wisdom of some who were in control, they chose to eliminate that program, so many women do not have birth control. Many of these women do not have the ability to afford or have health insurance and the ability to have birth control. This bill would prevent and limit under the law how long it is that a woman could choose before she could have an abortion. Even though the federal law stating viability is at 24 weeks, this changes it to 20 weeks and has no provision even for rape or incest.
Mr. Speaker.
Women,
for what purpose?
If the lady would yield.
Ms. Dukes, will you yield?
let me finish this sentence.
Certainly.
Many of these women could not afford birth control, and they will end up pregnant. And what we have seen, just in the past 10 years, that the rate of child abuse, neglect, and abandonment has gone up 18%. And these children are getting older and older, and if you just do a simple Google search, you will see that more and more children who are being abandoned, abused, killed are between the ages of 2 months and 3 years. So this bill would try to make more and more children who are brought to term, who are born, who are neglected, that they could have some positive outcome in their life. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I do yield to the gentleman from Harris County.
Ms. Turner, the lady yields.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Dukes. So this amendment essentially would, I guess you can say, encourage women to go and have their kids and then provide a safe haven for their children. Is that for their child?
That's correct, Representative Turner. I don't know if you remember, but November of last year, there was a woman who Child Protective Services had looked into. She had a child. They had looked at the situation, opened a case on that situation, but they didn't follow back up. The woman had some mental issues. She left the home. The child was left with the father. At 6 months old, the next report we had of that child, the child was found in the freezer, dead. The father had killed the child. The mother was gone. If we had provisions, the father he didn't know what to do because he didn't know where to take the child. He didn't know how to give the child up. He couldn't abandon the child because of the stigma. The child was 6 months old. But if we had 1 year, an opportunity for baby Moses to save another future leader of this land, then we would have more children who would be in safe environments.
So the intent of this amendment is also to provide safety and protection for a child once that child enters this world, once the child is here. Once we're able to see this child, it provides a safe haven for this kid.
It provides for a child to have a forever family like my dear little Layla was able to find when I adopted her because she was removed from such an environment. But if you have a kid right now, it's only up to 2 months. And if it's after 2 months, then folks don't know where to go because they could get prosecuted. So many of those kids end up dead. We can prevent that cycle.
Do you think that with this amendment it would also have the effect of reducing maybe the number of abortions that some women are having if they know that this amendment is in effect on this bill?
Absolutely, because it's usually in the later term that really, the cold feet come about, and they start really struggling with what are they going to do, how are they going to handle this. This would allow for me to have an option without prosecution.
Yes, because I know I have concerns, and especially when we're talking about 20 weeks. But with this amendment on this bill, it provides that safety net for those kids once they are born, such that provide them the added protection that they will need. That's the purpose of this amendment.
Yes, because as you well know, you have a daughter.
Yes.
For some people, when that child is born, it's the emotional factor. And everybody loves a baby. Every baby is beautiful, no matter what. We all think so, we feel so. And they may not have made a decision at that time to place the child away. But after that newness wears off and reality sets in and the struggles set in day to day, then that's when the problem occurs.
And this amendment doesn't in no way take away from HB2.
Not at all. It doesn't change when abortions can occur, doesn't change any of the restrictions. All this does is say, hey, for those who are going to have this child, if they change their mind, we're going to give them a little more time under baby Moses law.
Is the amendment acceptable to Representative Laudenberg?
I would think that it should be because it's such a wonderful amendment.
I think it would be a good idea for us to see a board that lights up 140-something today. I think this amendment could probably get it done. I would love to see Representative Laudenberg accept this amendment so that we can have pro-life not only within the womb, but pro-life once the kid leaves the womb.
Absolutely, Representative Turner, because this is about the numerous children that we hear about in the news. Just being on Article 2 of Appropriations for the Department of Family and Protective Services and receiving constantly the messages, the reports of the toddlers who have been abused and abandoned, and most of them murdered, because of course we usually hear about it when it's too late. But this would give another option, and it's another tool that we can put into place to advertise that you have a choice. You don't have to hurt that child. You can take them without the fear of being prosecuted to a safe environment, to a police department, or to a hospital, to the EMS, or to DFPS. There is another option to ensure that not only the child in the womb, but the child on the earth is protected. With that, Mr. Speaker, I move passage.
Chair recognizes Representative Laudenberg in opposition.
Respectfully, Representative Dukes, I am opposing your amendment and moving to table. Thank you, Representative Morrison, for what you did on the baby Moses law. And you have 60 days and you can be anonymous. That is truly pro-life. What this amendment will do is now place DPS, the state agency who is commissioned to help children who are in a very abusive situation. They are now going to be in the position of becoming authorizing abortions. And beyond 5 months. So this bill will actually do the opposite, this amendment will do the opposite of what I'm sure the author intended for it to do.
For what
Will
purpose?
the gentlelady yield?
Not at this time.
Not at this time.
And the anonymity that is in the Baby Moses law up to 60 days is not covered in this amendment. So, respectfully, I move to table it.
Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker? That would be you, Mr. Ritter.
Ms. Dukes, for what purpose?
Does the gentlelady yield?
Ms. Lombard, do you yield?
Yes, I will.
Gentlelady yield.
Mrs. Laudenberg, can you read the first 3 lines of that amendment?